Hello students. So we're going to pick up where we left off in the last video, and we created a three-dimensional cube, a solid geometry, and we learned how to use this box edit window to enter the numbers directly to get like the exact dimensions that we want. And we're going to continue with this. We're going to look at how do you manipulate form? How do you take that cube and slice it up like it's a piece of clay, and we're going to start creating shapes out of it. And we're going to do that at a very simple level while we're learning a bit about Rhino. So the thing is that this is a three-dimensional solid object, and the next thing we're going to create is a surface. And this tool over here on the toolbar is that is the surface tool over here. So you'll notice that it's got an arrow. When you click on the arrow, you get all these different types of surfaces that you can create. We're going to do a simple one, rectangular plane, corner to corner. And in the top view, I'm just going to make it an arbitrary size. And then I'm going to go over to the box edit, and we're going to do the same thing we did with the cube. This time we're going to make it 75 millimeters by 75 millimeters. And this is like really simple going on here. This is 50 millimeters of 75. And what we're going to do is use it so that we can use it as an object to cut with. And this is something when you're working with 3D and you want to create these closed geometries. Closed meaning that each of the surfaces is joined. There's no holes here, because when you're 3D printing, a hole in your model won't be able to print. You won't be able to export it in the file type that will go to the printer. So we're going to learn how to make closed objects. So whenever we cut up a solid object, we have to close it up, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So if we want to use this plane as a cutting object, we can go back into our geometry. Let's look at the front view, and we're going to rotate it. We're going to use the box edit again, the rotation tool, and we're just going to put a simple angle in there, 22.5, which is half of 45 degrees. And so I'm going to try it on the X first, 22.5, and see what happens. And if you look in the right view, what we get is that the angle is perpendicular. And if I move it over to the cube, then we can start to look at it and say, okay, well, now it's overlapping because it's bigger than the 50 millimeter cube. And what this is going to do, it's going to slice right through that cube, and we're going to end up with two shapes, and then we're going to close them off. So to do that, we're going to use the next tool, which is a split tool. Okay, so split, it does exactly what it says. It splits an object in half. So what basically how these tools work, there's a thing called the command line. And if you look up into the top bar here, you can enter text into it, but it also gives you feedback. You read what the tool is asking you to do. So if I hit the, I'm going to deselect everything. Okay, so I'm going to select that split tool, and it's saying, it's got a little message here. It's like, select the object to split. Well, I've got two objects on the screen. Which one do I want to split? Well, I want to split the cube. And if you look back at after I clicked on the cube and selected it, now it's saying select the object to split. Press enter when done. So I didn't press enter, but now I'm going to press enter. And now it's saying select the object to split. Yeah. Okay, I already did that. Select the cutting object. Okay, I'm going to redo this one. Let's try it again. Split tool, select that. Select the object to split. Press enter when done. Select the cutting object. See, now it's asking me select the cutting object. I'm going to select that plane. And creating meshes to escape is just sort of a feedback thing. So now when I select the cube, it's been broken up into two pieces. Okay, so I'm going to move my cutting object, my plane over here, and then I'm going to flatten it out again. Instead of having 22.5 degrees, I'm going to make it go back to the dimension it was in. I think we did that on the X. So that's going to be minus 22.5. And I don't like that. That didn't work right. Okay. So I'm going to move this out of the way for a second, and then we're going to zoom in on this one. And if you look at what's happening here is now we have these two different shapes. And when you look at it, here's the problem. That got split apart, and we want to close it off. And so the easiest way to close it is a tool called cap. Okay, and if we go back to the command line, we can use the command line to just select the tool we want, and cap is really simple, CAP cap. You just type it in there and hit enter, and it automatically capped it. Now, this only works on very simple geometry like a cube, okay? It won't really work on something where you've got complex angles that don't really intersect in a clean way. So I'm going to cap this one as well. CAP cap, enter, and they're both capped. Okay, so what we can do now is you've got two pieces and you can start to rearrange these. Like, what do you want to make? How do you want to explore the geometry? Okay, so maybe I want to rotate this one, and I'm just going to flip it 90 degrees. Okay, that looks a bit better, and you can just start to play around at this point and try to make a sculptural object, a three-dimensional object, and you can start designing. You can start experimenting with different things you can do with this. And I could cut cut it up again if I wanted to. And that is how you use the split tool and how you cap and make an object solid. And making an object solid is something we'll continue with, because the more complex the geometry, the more complex the method you have to use to make it solid. So we'll pick it up in the next video.